Welcome to Karma Education. This is the channel for UGC NET Education subject. In the previous lecture, I have discussed meaning, concept, attributes, steps of research with some previous year research related questions. With the continuation of that topic, in this video I am going to discuss educational research. It will cover the portion of the educational research, that meaning of educational research, characteristics of educational research, scope of educational research, limitations of educational research with some previous year questions. Now the meaning of educational research. What is the meaning? The systematic collection and analysis of data related to the field of education is known as educational research. It is a formal systematic application of scientific method to study the educational problem. And next is the definition of educational research. Some various notable authors' definition I have sum up here. According to Good, educational research is the study and investigation in the field of education. According to Munray, the final purpose of educational research is to ascertain principles and develop procedures for use in the field of education. According to W.M. Travers, educational research is that activity which is directed towards the development of science of behavior in educational situations. Why do we carry out educational research? What is the purpose of educational research? First thing is to explore issues related to student, teacher, parents, teacher-student relationship, curriculum, evaluation procedure, etc. To shape policy, to formulate or to change educational policy on curriculum, coursework, syllabus, evaluation, budget, expenditure, and so on. To improve practices. Research can suggest ways of improving practice which is difficult for practitioners. And finally, to add knowledge. Research can add new knowledge to facilitate learning process. This question is related to the purpose of educational research. This question came in June 2015. The question is, which one is not valid argument for conducting research in education? Option 1 for advancement of educational theory. Option 2 for improvement of social practices. Option 3 for improving social awareness of teachers. Option 4 for developing sound educational policies. The first one is for advancement of educational theory. These come under to add knowledge here. For improvement of social practices, these also come under to improve practices here. To improve practices in the sense to improve practices according to the social need. Okay, and then for improving social awareness of teachers. This point is not related to the purpose of educational research. This is related with teacher education. And option 4 for developing sound educational policies. Obviously, it is related with educational research purpose. So the correct option will be here option 3 for improving social awareness of teachers. This is not a valid argument for conducting research in education. Characteristics of educational research. Educational research deals with the problem of education field. It strives solution for it only. Educational research is a scientific inquiry because testing of hypothesis includes in it. Educational research finds truth based on observation, or empirical evidence. It is based on primary and secondary data. Primary data, when researcher collects his data by observation, interview, survey, means in direct way. And secondary data, when researcher collects his data from internet, books, government records, etc. It means in indirect way. In educational research, control of variables are not same as physical science or biological science, because educational research works with human being, human nature, human behavior, which is not static. It is changeable and uncontrollable. So, it is quite impossible to control the variables in educational research. If researcher tries to control the variable in educational research, then it will affect on findings. Basically, this research is inclined towards insight and imagination. Insight means accurate and deep understanding of something or someone. In educational research, researcher tries to find out the solution through insight. Educational research emphasizes to the development of generalization or theory or principles, because it will help in the understanding or prediction. Educational research tries to develop the situation based on the study of human behavior. It tries to understand, explain, and predict human nature. The question is from primary source of data. The question came in July 2018. The question is for the purpose of highlighting the characteristics of a particular group of children, which of the following may be considered as the primary source? Option 1, a review of research published in the last 5 years. Option 2, a critical explanation of the psychological characteristics of children suffering from autism. Option 3, findings of case studies of a group of children with autism. Option 3, list of books on special education. Option 1, review of research. Review of research means research is done by other researcher. So this is the indirect data. Option 2 is talking about only one aspect of the children who are suffering from autism, that is psychological aspect. So it is not covering, or it is not giving the exact answer of this particular question. So this is also not the correct option. Second, findings of case studies. Case study involves direct collection of various data regarding a specific topic. Direct collection of various data. Okay, so there is a connection between the data and researcher. Researcher will collect data directly. And the option 4 is list of books. Book is generally indirect source of evidence. So the correct option is option 3, findings of case studies of a group of children with autism. Now the steps of educational research. The first step is selection, analysis and statement of the research problem. In this step, researcher will identify the problem from his or her interest area. After selection, a researcher will define the problem clearly and analyze the background of the problem. Step 2 is literature review. Researcher has to study the problem thoroughly by reviewing related literature. Step 3, formulation of research objectives. After literature review, the most important work is to specify the objectives of the research. Then draw the tentative assumption of the problem or hypothesis. Research methodology. Step 4. In research methodology, a researcher has to mention the variables of the study, what methodology has been selected for the study, what will be the data collection techniques, what is the sampling method for the study, and how the data will be analyzed. Next, step 5, work plan. In this step, the researcher has to mention the timetable for the study. Step 6 is budget. In this step, a researcher can mention the name or list of the equipment will be used in the study as well as the finance. Step 7, summary. In this step, a researcher will brief out the study and will do the presentation before the audience. This question is related with formation of research problem. In July 2016, this question came in paper 2. The question is, in the formation of research problems for educational studies using quantitative paradigms, a sequence of logical steps has to be followed, usually in a particular order. From the list given below, select an appropriate sequence for the code. The list of the steps: first, deciding the specific problem, then determining the field of study, then identifying the variables involved, then defining and delimiting the scope of problem, and lastly evaluating on the basis of personal and academic suitability of the problem. So what will be the correct sequence of the steps? First of all, as a researcher, you have to determine the field of study. So the step 2 will be the first correct step, and then you have to decide the specific problem from your field of study, and after that you have to evaluate that specific problem on the basis of personal as well as academic suitability, and then you have to identify the variables which are involved in your problem, and lastly you have to define and give the delimitation of the scope of the problem. So this will be the correct sequence. So the correct option from here, correct sequence is option 3. Okay. This is a very easy question. It came in December 2013. The question is, importance of the subject, feasibility and time needed for the study have essentially to be kept in mind at the time of collection of data, selection of the problem, analysis of data, or writing the report. So as a researcher, when you will think about importance of the subject, feasibility means practicability, and time needed for the study at the time of collection of data, it means your work has started. Then selection of the problem, it means you are in an initial stage. And then analysis of data, it means your work is more or less done. And at last, writing the report, it means your work is done. So what will be the correct answer? The correct answer is option 2, selection of the problem. It means at the initial stage of research work, you have to think about the importance of the subject, its feasibility and time needed for the study. The next question is questions like what data are to be collected, what characteristics of data are relevant and needed to be studied, what techniques are to be used for the purpose, can be answered if related literature is studied adequately, problem is defined properly, tools are constructed properly, data are organized properly. So you can keep the answer of these questions if your problem is defined properly. So other options are not correct here. If you clearly properly defined your problem, you can give the answer of these questions, that what data are to be collected, what characteristics of data are relevant and needed for the study, and what techniques are to be used for the purpose. So the option 2, problem is defined properly, is the correct. This question came in December 2012. The question is, which of the following is not a criteria for the statement of a good research problem? Option 1, expression of relationship between or among variables. Option 2, clarity and unambiguousness. Option 3, possibility of empirical testing. And option 4, possibility of use of statistical analysis. You can do one thing, that you just bring out the statement of which denotes the criteria of good research problem over here. Expression of relationship between and among variables. It is of course one of the criteria of good research problem. Secondly, clarity and unambiguousness. These also one of the criteria of good research problem. Possibility of empirical testing. This is not a criteria of this. And lastly, possibility of use of statistical analysis. This point is also the criteria of a good research problem. So you can eliminate the other other options. Here you have to mention which is not the criteria of good research problem. So the option 3 is the correct option. Possibility of empirical testing is not a criteria for the statement of a good research problem. Scope of educational research. Scope means extent of the subject matter. In terms of educational research, it is related with individual level like students, teachers, parents, with institution level, schools, colleges, research institutes, etc. And it is also related with other factors like curriculum, educational policy, evaluation process, educational technology, environment of educational institute, etc. Scope of educational research covers both formal and non-formal education, and it has an interdisciplinary nature. It interlinks with various subjects like psychology, philosophy, technology, sociology, etc. Limitations of educational research. First, subject matter. Subject matter in terms of students, teachers, or any educational personnel are unique. So, to draw generalization is a tough task for researcher. Observation. Observation of human behavior is subjective than physical and biological phenomena. Subjective or personal feelings, tastes, opinions, emotions varies man to man. So it also has an impact on findings of the research. Replication. At the time of replication, the things never remains static. Replication indicates validation. If someone's work failed to reproduce the same result, then the research work is not valid. Educational research studies the human nature, which is most dynamic thing. So it is difficult to replicate. Attitude of observer. It has an impact on subject matter and as also in findings also. Attitude of observer should not be biased anyhow. Next is control. Control over human behavior is quite difficult than in laboratory based experiment. Tools. A reliable and valid tool for data collection and data analysis are not available in large scale. Lastly, this question came in July 2016. The question is, which of the following is not a limitation of educational research? First option is complexity of research problems, then methodological difficulties, then public nature of education, and then mental discomfort of subjects. First, if you identify the limitation of educational research from these options, from these given options, then you can get the correct answer over here. Complexity of research problem, uh, it is uh, it is one of the basic nature of research problem of educational research, which is one of the limitation also. And then methodological difficulties. Methodological difficulties is another important limitation of educational research. And then public nature of education. Public nature of education, this is the basic concept of educational research because it deals with the public. So this also another limitation of educational research. And lastly, mental discomfort of subjects. The comfortness of a subject is not the matter of educational research. So this is not the limitation of educational research, obviously. So here is the correct option, option 4, mental discomfort of subjects. Be connected with my channel to get more information about each topic of UGC NET Education Syllabus. I am also taking online class based on Education NET Syllabus Paper 2, solving previous year questions with explanation to understand the pattern and trend of UGC NET exam. Interested candidate, comment me in the chat box. Thank you.